Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Rozell music page. Today we're going to start our first lesson on music theory. And I have a lot of room here, so I'll have to pull out of the video, but so you can see the whiteboard. But we're going to just talk about the basics of music theory and the major and the minor scale and how chords are built. Basic chords, just a major, minor. We'll get into sevenths and diminished and all that further down the road. So today we're just going to talk about the major and the minor scale, and we're going to use the key of C. So we'll start off here and we'll take a look at the board. Key of C is the easiest key to start with. That's what piano players use. It's all the white keys. So you have on a major scale and a minor scale. We'll start with the major scale. A major scale is a whole step, and a half step. Whole step, whole step, whole step, and then another half step, which will bring you back to your first note. So let's take a look up here. This is a small version of a keyboard on a piano. You have all your white keys and the black keys. All the white keys are what are called natural tones. There's no sharps or flats. So they're C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and it repeats D, E, A, B. And in between those, you're going to have these black keys every so often, which are in harmonic, which are sharps and flats. So this one here is between a C and a D, so it's actually a C sharp if you're going up, or even if you're going down, it's a D flat. So C sharp and D flat are actually the same note. Same over here, D to E. You go up, you have a D sharp, or if you go down, you have an E flat. So between these two, same thing. Between an E and an F, you're going to notice, and the B and the C, there's no tone between those. Just E to F's a half tone, B to C's a half tone. They don't have a sharp or a flat. So each step is called a tone or a semitone. Each step is a semitone. So to go from here to here, C to C sharp is a semitone, and then C sharp to D is another semitone. So when you add those two together, you actually have a whole tone or a whole step. So from here to here and here to here is one whole step, C to D. Likewise, if you're going from E to F, it's just one semitone, so you're only making one move. So it's only a half step. And that'll bring us down to here. So if you're going with the major scale first, we're going to do it in the key of C, because there's no sharps or flats. It keeps it pretty simple. Further down the road, we'll work on some other keys and whatnot, and then you can kind of see how all this plays together with the sharps and flats. But for today, we're going to keep it simple. So in the key of C, like I said, all the white keys have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C, which is the same note you started on. So without the octave, that's what the last note is called, the octave. It's the same tone, just a whole octave higher. But basically you have 7 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the key of C. So on a major scale, you're going to do a whole step, which is one semitone, and another semitone. So you've got 1, 2, which is a whole step, like we said up here, 1, 2. So you're going to have, on a major scale, you have a whole step and then a whole step. So you're going to go C to D, then D to E. Now, up here you'll have a half step, E to F, so it goes E to F, and then whole step, F to G, another whole step, G sharp to A, and then another whole step, which would be A sharp to B, so another whole step, A to B. And then finally, to end at the octave, another half step, half takes you B to C. Okay, so the major scale is going to be a whole step, then you do a half step, then whole step, whole step, whole step, then another half step, which brings you right back to that first note you started with. Minor scale is a little different. Well, there's 3 different minor scales, but today we're going to work on the natural minor, which has a flat in third, a flat in sixth, and a flat in seventh. What that means is you have different intervals on a natural minor scale. It doesn't do the whole half, whole half. It does whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. So by doing that, you're going to change where you land on the notes. So in the key of C, if we're doing a minor, you're going to start on a C, you're going to do a whole step, so it's going to take you half, that brings it to the whole, to a D, and you're going to do a half step. And this is where it's a little different on the minor scale. You do a half step from a D, you're just going up a semitone, so you're going to D sharp or E flat. And usually when you're laying out keys, you don't have a D and then a D sharp, you would use the E flat, because it's each letter. You're going to make it sharp or flat. You don't want 2 Ds on the same key, the same scale. So we call it an E flat here. And then another whole step, which is actually going from here. You're going to have, actually you're starting at the E flat. So you're up here, half a step, which equals a whole. We got two halves, half, half. So now you're on the F. Whole step to the G, half, half. And then another half step is going to take you up to the A flat. Like I said, you don't want to call it G sharp because you've already got a G in the scale, so you call it an A flat. Then you do another whole step. So you're here, and it's going to take you to, on the A flat, you're going to go half, half. There's a whole step, so now you're at the B flat. And then from the B flat to the C is a whole step, so half, half, you end up back on the C. So a little bit of difference. You're going to have, when you go from a major to a minor scale, you're going to have a flat in third, a flat in sixth, and a flat in seventh. And all this comes around when you're working with scales, when you're playing certain keys, which we'll get to the scales down the road as far as playing lead and solos in certain keys, but this is just to give you an understanding of how music on a basic form works. And down here we're going to talk about chord structure, how a chord is actually built using this. Like I said, we're going to stay right in C because that's very simple. There's no flats or sharps until you get into the, if you want to do a C minor scale. But for right now, a C major chord, like a chord is made up of 3 tones. Like each one of these, you press one, that's a C note, that's an E note, that's a G note. If you do individual, those are just single notes. But if you play 3 tones together, 3 notes, that gives you a chord or more. You can do 4 or 5, then you start building extended chords. But a basic chord is 3 notes. So a basic C chord, if you want to play the C chord, they're made up of the 1, the 3, and the 5 position of your scale. So if we're in a key of C, this key here, the 1, the 3, and the 5 are the 3 notes you would play, which are going to be C, E, and G. So you would have, on a major chord, a major C chord is going to be a C, the E, and then the G. So if you play a C, E, and G, those 2 together, you're going to have a C major chord. Okay? And if you want to play a C minor chord, you flatten the third. The third note, this is your root. Your first is your root. The fifth and the third. The third is always going to tell you whether it's major or minor. If you have to flatten the third, it becomes a minor. So you have your root note, your dominant note, and then this determines whether it's major or minor on your third. So if we want to play a C minor, we're going to take our 1, which is the C. This is the root. That's the key you're in for a C chord. And then your fifth, your dominant, is your G, same as in a major chord. But the minor becomes different on the third note. And on a minor, it's flattened down on a third for the natural minor. So it would actually be an E flat. So if we were to play a C, E flat, and then the G, that would be a C minor chord. So like I said, that's how chords are built. They're built off the 1, the 3, and the 5 of that scale. Like I said, if we were working with the key of D, like for a D chord, you know, this would be your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it'd be D, F, and A would be actually D, F sharp, and A for a D major. But you'd have to sit down and write out each one, do the whole step, and figure out the key of D. And that's how chords are built. Like I said, they're built of the 1, the 3, and the 5 of the scale, whichever chord you're working on. Like right now, we're working on just the C chord. So, and extended chords will eventually add other notes into it to build a bigger chord, like a 7th or a 9th, dominant 7th, that type of stuff. But for today, just the basics. And so there you go. Like I said, you got your major scale and your minor scale. Like I said, you can go back, review it, pause it, write it down. But major scale is a whole step, then a half step, then a whole step, and then another half to bring you back to the original note. And on a natural minor, it's a whole step to a half step, then whole step, and then another half step, whole step. And that'll bring you back to the octave. Which, like I said, an octave is the root note you started with, just played a whole 12 notes higher. 12 tones higher, actually, not notes, I'm sorry. 12 tones higher. So, and like I said, chords are made up of a basic chord is made up of a 1, a 3, and a 5. And if you play guitar, you've probably seen, like, a note that's called like a C5, what's called a 5 chord or a power chord. Not really a chord. It's really just made up of the C and the G. And on guitar, it usually has a C, a G, and then an octave of C again. But it's really only 2 notes of that, so it's really not fully a chord. So any questions, feel free to comment. Like I said, I'll get back to you. I'll answer any questions. And if you have anything anything you want me to go over or do a lesson on, let me know. And thank you.